Welcome to Morning Thoughts, an Assigned Christian at Birth podcast. Today, on the first episode of the pod, I'm going to be talking about something that is probably really present in the lives of most ex-evangelicals, or anybody who's left any church or fundamentalist faith, and that's estrangement from your evangelical family members. I know firsthand how difficult it can be to hold your boundaries and keep from giving in when they beg and cry and plead to see you and insist that they love you, even though their beliefs and inability to examine them critically demonstrate otherwise. It's like they can't comprehend that you're in just as much pain as they are, only you're also having to spend your energy on holding the most painful boundary in the world in order to be able to try and heal. Religious trauma is a burden nobody should be forced to bear alone. If you've made it out, I am so happy you're here. If you're questioning, I am ecstatic that you were brave enough to listen to this podcast. It's truly a brave thing to question what you've been told your entire life. In the song Dethrone by Bad Omens, there's a line that says, "Getting out is not enough if nobody else can come." Ooh, that hits me. The first time I heard that song, the line just completely blew me away. In the 3 short years since I've fully deconstructed, I've come to realize just how lonely and painful it can be to hold your ground, keep your boundaries, and defend a safe place for yourself to heal from indoctrination, brainwashing, and religious trauma. I've always explained the way I was raised by making a comparison to having been raised on Mars. Having been raised on Mars for 18 years and then suddenly and unexpectedly waking up on Earth one day with no preparation or understanding for how to be a human. Being here is bittersweet. I would not have it any other way. I cannot imagine what my life would be right now if I had stayed in. But it kills me on the daily to know that I won't be able to bring them with me. But hey, maybe I'll be able to bring you, right? I mean, that's why I'm here. I have to believe I survived and got out for a reason, and maybe you're that reason. Leave me a comment if what I'm talking about resonates with you, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. I kind of feel like I'm a little bit late to the YouTube game, but I really want community, and I know how hard it is to make the decision to leave and be done with a religion that you were born into, raised most of your life in. Yeah, I would love for you to come along with me as I search for community. I personally never ever dreamed that I could leave evangelical Christianity completely. The idea of total deconstruction wasn't something that I was interested in. In later videos, I will do my best to explain how I got out of fundamentalism, honestly, without even trying. I'll also try to fill you in on how I stopped believing in Christian God altogether. But for today, all you need to know is that I was born and raised in the fundamentalist evangelical bubble. I left fundamentalism at 18, deconstructed from toxic theology about the queer community when I was 20. I fled the Christian church entirely when I was 26 and deconstructed from Christianity itself starting in 2020 at the age of 35. So, the thing I want to talk about today is Plato's allegory of the cave. I first heard that in a Philosophy 101 class during my freshman year at Bible college, and I had no idea what to make of it. Graduating from a Calvinist high school did not set me up for being able to think critically as an adult whatsoever. Philosophy was extremely confusing to me. I had no idea why it mattered whether or not the people ever left the cave. For those of you who haven't heard it, let me go ahead and give you a simplified version here. So basically, Plato describes a group of people who live their entire lives inside a dark cave facing a wall, and they're tied in a position where they can't move or turn their heads. What a freak, Plato. They could only see the wall directly in front of them. So then there's a fire behind the people, but between the people and the fire, there's a raised walkway with people walking on it, and they have like objects and puppets casting shadows from behind me to appear on the wall in front of me. All I can see are the shadows, right? The people in the cave when they're sitting here and they see those shadows, that's what they believe is reality because that's all they can see. They don't know that there's anything else. And the allegory goes on to explain how one of these people is freed from the chains and forced to leave the cave. At first, he's like struck blind by the sun because he's been in the dark, his whole life. But as he adjusts to life outside the cave, he's able to see the real world around him. He sees the sun, he sees the objects that cast the shadows, can see the stars at night in the sky. So our guy is just like losing his shit because he's discovered there is a whole lot more to reality and to the world than he'd been led to believe. So what does he want to do? He wants to go share this with the people he'd spent his whole life with back in the cave. But what happens when he goes back in the cave to tell them what he's seen? Not a single one of them believes him. They all think he is crazy, right? Oh, like it's so hard. The idea of the outside world is way too much, way too scary to even contemplate or consider. And they insist that those shadows on the wall are reality. Plato uses this allegory to illustrate his philosophy. And if you want to know more about that, there are so many more capable philosophy YouTubers who can explain that and do a deep dive into it much better than I can. But for me, it's really the metaphor that hits home. I mean, I have 2 English degrees. For me, a distracted evangelical whose entire family is still planted firmly within the confines of fundamentalist evangelical, non-denominational teachings, this metaphor hits in an extremely soul-crushing way. Um, Recently, I was thinking about how those of us who've left evangelical communities and fundamentalist communities, especially those of us who were raised in a sealed off bubble as our parents strove to live in the world but not be of the world, and how we were told our whole lives what reality was, only to discover just how wrong our perception of reality was while living under our parents. It really struck me then how I've expended so much energy trying to be like our cave escapee friend from Plato's Allegory. You can tell them what you've seen, offer to show them the evidence, but if they refuse to be freed, there's ultimately nothing you could do. And that sucks. I think the dude who escaped in the story is most likely officially the earliest literary character I found that I relate to entirely too well. You can either choose freedom or you can choose to stay stuck. And people who don't want to choose freedom will only hold you back from being able to thrive in life outside of the cave. Getting out may not be enough if nobody else can come, but I have to learn how to live with it. I just wish there was a way, that I could still see my family as much as I want to, but also stay firmly rooted in the real world. Because the way I was raised, I have a lot of mental health issues.
It's mental illness, isn't it?
I made it out and I wish I could see them as much as I wanted to, but it's like I have to keep a pretty hard boundary because once I'm around them again, all of the same thoughts keep coming back. Like I'm in the wrong, I'm running from God, I'm mad at God, all kinds of things that completely aren't true. I just read and learn. And education is one of the most important things to me after having been raised in fundamentalist schools my entire life. I've never taken a secular science class at a secular learning institution, and there will be a lot more to say about that another day. But I just, I want to give encouragement to those of you who are not no contact, who are low contact, who are thinking about one of those. It's hard, I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard. I spent the majority of my 20s and early 30s showing up to all the family events, even though I didn't agree with most of the stuff they believed. And I knew that if they knew the truth about me, I probably, wouldn't be allowed to be around. Someone in my family did tell me that if there was a gay family member that they wouldn't be allowed to be around. So I spent a lot of time closeted when it came to my family. And I am fully out now. Nobody is real happy about it in my family, but they know. I'm happy. I'm the happiest I've ever been in the entirety of my adult life. I got married to my wife last year, and we have a cute little dog. And I would not trade anything for my wife.
My wife.
Like, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I would never have met her had I stayed. All that to say, If you're feeling alone, if you don't know what to do, if it all seems like too much, please reach out, leave me a comment, send me a message. My Instagram is assigned Christian at birth. DM me there. I will respond. Yeah, I just, people who've gone through what we've been through need community, and I am seeking to find that from myself online and in person. So come along with me if you want to see how that goes. Now we've reached the part of this casual little pod where I talk about the books I've read recently. Check the links in the description if you're interested in reading any of them. I read Troublemaker by Leah Remini. It was a eye-opening insight into what a celebrity's life is like in Scientology. I've read two other ex-Scientology memoirs in recent years, being Beyond Belief by Jenna Miscavige Hill and A Queer and Pleasant Danger by Kate Bornstein. Jenna Miscavige Hill was born into Scientology and is the niece of the current leader of the cult, David Miscavige. Kate Bornstein is a trans woman who, before she came out, joined Scientology, married, had kids, held rank in the Sea Org, which is like the most prestigious arm of Scientology. That's the leader's personal fleet of servicemen. And she eventually defected from Scientology and became what is known as an SP, a suppressive person. And she came out, which we love to see it. Both of those books are mind-blowing and are honestly the reasons why I will not watch any movies with Tom Cruise in them anymore. Just looking at him makes me want to hurl. Troublemaker was great though because it gave a different perspective. Leah was actually born into it, but then she was also treated differently once gaining fame for being an actress. The story of how and why she got out is what I really wanted to know, and I was shook to find out that it's directly related to Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes's wedding. Read Troublemaker. It's real good. Um, Super quick, super engaging read. I believe Scientology is one of the contemporary religions that isn't well known because people are so quick to write it off as stupid. The whole idea of a religion based around science fiction involving an alien named Xenu. Yeah. But I mean, when you really step back and think about it, like, is it really so wild in comparison to what we were raised on? But let me just say, if the science fiction alien stuff is all you know about Scientology, you have to check this book out. It'll blow your mind. And if you want to learn even more, definitely check out Beyond Belief to learn more about the labor camps that they send children to, and A Queer and Pleasant Danger, because Kate's story of leaving the religion and her family in order to pursue the ability to live an authentic life is powerful and sorrowful and moving and triumphant, and I highly recommend. I also read Page Boy, which, as we all know, is Elliot Page's memoir. I read it in one day over the course of two plane flights when I was going to visit my best friend last month. It's real good. There is a good deal of discussion about eating disorders, non-consensual sex, grooming of minors. If those things are too much for you, totally understandable. Just pass on by this recommendation. The narrative of the book, though, was really captivating, and it was great to be able to read their memoir in their own words. He really poured his soul and grief onto the page, but also his hope and excitement for the future, and we love to see it. The last thing I read recently is called Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli. She's the one who wrote Simon versus the Homo sapiens, and then that became a movie called Love, Simon. All I'm saying is the Simon author wrote a book about a girl this time. It's about a high school senior who is like the LGBTQ club's biggest ally. Both her sister and her best friend are queer. But then when she goes to visit her best friend at college for spring break, Imogen realizes she might just be more than an ally. And what's more, she develops a crush on her best friend's new college bestie. This was a fun YA read. It was super light, zipped through it super quick. There were characters I loved and characters I wanted to strangle. If you like YA coming out stories or YA romance, this one's for you. Anyway, I've just about finished up my coffee, and I guess it's time to start the day. So let me know in the comments what's one thing you hope to accomplish today. I hope to accomplish cleaning up my nest. This over here is where I do all my writing and reading, and there are books everywhere. If you'd like to talk more about today's episode with me, Like I said, find me on Instagram, assigned Christian at birth. If you could, like this video, share it with friends who you think might be interested, that would be lovely. Maybe give me a follow. Don't forget to do something kind for someone else today. Bye, friends.